Black Monday has struck again. 4 NFL coaches have been fired. Now let's talk about who these 4 NFL teams are going to hire.
The bent, that's big views. Boarded the plane, won't be back to May. Now I can't camp it with you.
Hey, how's it going, guys? So today I am going to be talking about who the Browns, the Giants, the Panthers, and the Cowboys are all going to hire for their open coaching vacancies. And this is going to be very interesting to see which way all these teams are really going to go, because there are going to be a lot of different candidates from college, from these coordinating jobs, and it'll just be really interesting to see what sort of direction each of these teams want to go for the future. So before I forget, don't forget, go down and subscribe. I post videos every single week talking about the biggest sports stories and giving my analysis on it. So I also do the same exact thing on my Instagram and also my Twitter, and I would really appreciate it if you guys would go and support both of those. So these 4 teams have a lot of question marks, not only with their franchises in general, but with, most importantly, their head coaching decisions. So we've seen it recently, especially with the Cleveland Browns, since they were Super Bowl contenders. After all these amazing moves, especially for a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. and all this excitement that had been going on the offensive side for Cleveland, and them hiring a guy in Freddie Kitchens with a lot of buddy with Baker Mayfield and also the team in general. And there was a lot of expectations that this offense was going to be one of the top in the league. And we just saw, just from the lack of experience that Freddie Kitchens had, not only as a head coach, but also being able to bring a team together and being able to have discipline throughout the locker room. We really showed the embarrassment that a inexperienced coach can really put on a very exciting and talented team. So it'll be really interesting to see with teams like the Browns, with the Cowboys, the Panthers, and the Giants, what they're going to do with these coaching vacancies, and especially with a team like the Giants. Now, they have a new young quarterback. They haven't had a lot of great seasons, especially in the last 4 years. And this is a fan base that is just yearning for some sort of excitement, some sort of, upside from this team. We got a lot of excitement when they got Daniel Jones. Obviously, not everybody was excited about Daniel Jones because he was the 6th pick, because he didn't have good accuracy. So we actually saw he did pretty well this season. He had the stepping stones to develop into a franchise quarterback. It wasn't great. It wasn't amazing. They need a good, disciplined head coach that is really going to be able to bring that culture and be able to really bring that excitement to this offense and be able to bring those schemes that Pat Schumer wasn't really able to do. And then if we look on to the Cowboys, this is a team that was looked at as a playoff contender, a top playoff contender, especially since they had one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL and one of the top wide receivers in the NFL in Amari Cooper, one of the top running backs in the NFL, and a really good defense. It just seemed like no reason why this team couldn't win more than 10 games, especially with such an awful division that they had. And they were only able to go 8-8 and lost to the Eagles, who are now 9-7 and on their way to a playoff berth. And it just is a huge disappointment for the football team of America in the Dallas Cowboys. But you really got to think, with this coaching decision that the Cowboys have ahead of them, what they are really going to do, especially with all the power and all the micromanagement that Jerry Jones has to have all around the franchise. Everything needs to go his way. And that's why we saw Jason Garrett didn't really work out. It was also obviously because Jason Garrett didn't really know how to call that great of plays in the certain situations that he was put into. And that's why in 4 of his 10 seasons, he went 8-8. And most of those seasons, he had a pretty talented team under him. But, you really got to think about what sort of head coach is going to be that puppet master to Jerry Jones and really listen to everything that he does, but also at the same time being able to make this team very successful with all the great pieces that they do have. And now also looking at the Panthers, this is a team that has a lot of confusion, a lot of question marks, like who's going to be the quarterback, what's going to be happening with their defense. Their defense was really good at the start of the season, but then really started to decline. And then we saw Kyle Allen looking like this new forthcoming in Carolina and this new franchise exciting quarterback that really took a downfall at the second half of the season with all the picks that he threw, all the missed throws that he had to really make the season for the Carolina Panthers pretty disappointing. So it'll be really interesting to see, even if they keep Cam Newton, if they draft somebody, there's a lot of confusion. And so this is what makes the Carolina Panthers head coaching job pretty up in the air. They had Ron Rivera for a lot of seasons, and he was really able to bring that team up from an embarrassment that they were, and being able to bring Cam Newton in and really be able to develop him into the superstar that he is today. And so, with all these different teams, it'll be really interesting to see how they are all able to really bring that culture and bring that discipline that all these teams really need to be able to have the sort of situation, for instance, like the Patriots have had for the last 20 years. And when I was listening to the different examples of a good quality head coach, for example, like what Freddie Kitchens did all throughout this season, and I'm going to probably keep on bringing him up because he had a lot of mistakes throughout his first season as a head coach. Now you can't really knock him because in 8 months, he went from the quarterback coach to the offensive coordinator to the head coach. So not a lot of experience. And he just allowed his players to yap their mouth all throughout to the media, and there just wasn't a lot of discipline. It seemed like in the locker room for the Cleveland Browns, and I heard them talk about it on ESPN. Well, what if this happened to the Patriots? Well, Bill Belichick would release them and find a new guy, but that's just the Patriots way. But still, you need to have that discipline, like we saw with a few of these different teams who have had these players, gnaw off to the media. They just release them out of nowhere, and a lot of guys are like, "Wait, what?" But it really brings a whole message to the entire team that you better shut your mouth and do everything that you can to win. Because if you have something to say to the media, you should say it to your team first. Because when you say it to the media, it's just gonna totally be exaggerated and be on every single headline, every single newspaper that every single fan is going to be able to see, and they're not really able to going to be able to get the full story. And so a lot of these teams need that discipline to be able to be successful. And a few of my top picks of head coaches that I think will be really interesting to see where they really go and what teams, take the opportunity with these talented coaches to really be able to, take the steps to hire them, and also what they could potentially do for these teams. And to start off, a guy like Mike McCarthy, who had 13 seasons with the Green Bay Packers and went 125-77 with winning a Super Bowl in his time in Green Bay. And he actually tied the winning percentage for Andy Reid, which Andy Reid's been a pretty successful head coach, even though he hasn't been successful in the playoff front of his career. But he's been a very successful regular season and also a very good culture quarterback, a very good culture head coach that has really been able to turn a lot of different franchises around. And, this really was interesting to see how the Mike McCarthy situation in Green Bay really started to play out, especially at the end of the 2018 season when it came out that Aaron Rodgers and him had a very, very tense relationship. And it came out that Aaron Rodgers had a grudge from 2005 when Mike McCarthy decided to draft Alex Smith when he was with the San Francisco 49ers, but that was in 2005. So you're telling me all throughout the 18 seasons that you guys were working together, you held a grudge against him? Come on, Aaron. Let's grow up a little bit. I understand that you're one of, in my opinion, Aaron Rodgers is the most talented quarterback in the NFL. Now, just because his pure talent as a quarterback and being able to have that huge arm, but really, come on, Aaron, grow up. And I think that really doesn't knock McCarthy's personality or his coaching style really whatsoever, because I think that he was able to be very successful in Green Bay, even though a lot of people knocked him for his offensive coaching style. But he did come out with his new decade plan that he wants to have a 14-man analytical team behind him to really be able to help figure out the best plays in these different situations and being able to use analytics to be able to be successful on the field. And with this new plan, he explained that he is trying to give the quarterbacks approximately half the time that they usually have in the pocket with play action fakes and different sort of trick plays. And I think this would be really interesting and would really work with the Cleveland Browns, especially with Nick Chubb back there and with Baker Mayfield. He can run a little bit. We didn't see it at all this year, and we didn't see it really at all his rookie season because he was on his butt most of the time because he doesn't have an offensive line. But we saw it in his college football career. The kid's got some legs on him. And so I think it'll be really interesting to see how McCarthy would be able to maximize the Browns offense, and especially with the connection that they had with the interviews that they have last offseason. McCarthy got turned down by the Browns and the Browns decided to hire Kitchens, but now McCarthy already has an interview with the Browns. And so it'll be really interesting to see where he really goes, because I think a perfect fit for him would be a team like the Giants, the Browns, or even a team like the Panthers. So this part of the video is coming from the future, and I just wanted to talk about Mike McCarthy getting hired by the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I think that this is a perfect hiring for Jerry Jones and the Cowboys after they had such a disappointing season this last year with so much talent on that team. And what I talked about with Mike McCarthy and his new scheme for how he wants to newly coach for his new job is, I think it's going to fit perfectly with the offense that the Cowboys have. With what I talked about with more play action plays and a lot more trick running plays, I think he's going to be able to utilize Dak Prescott's running ability as well as Ezekiel Elliott's amazing ability as a running back. And also at the same time, McCarthy wasn't overly controllable while he was with Green Bay, and I think that he will work perfectly with Jerry Jones. So it'll be very interesting to see how this hire works out. And now talking about the hot commodity and the coaching options in Josh McDaniels. Now, he has been with the New England Patriots for most of his career, and we saw 2 years ago when he had a lot of buzz around his name in the coaching hiring when he was hired by the Indianapolis Colts and then decided to just drop out of the running and totally just out of nowhere just go back to the Patriots after a weird sort of meeting that he had with Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick. I'm not complaining as a Pats fan, but his agent decided to drop him and say that was professional suicide. And in my opinion, it was a really bad move by Josh McDaniels to do that, because it just showed that he's very like inconsistent on his decisions and that he's not really able to be very secure if a team does hire him. As an owner, I would be very nervous that he would do the same exact thing now. But we've been able to see that he has been very successful in grooming Tom Brady and the Patriots offense to be wicked successful, especially when they have won 3 Super Bowls under his belt. And so for the first time in 8 years with the Patriots, he has fell outside of the top four in points per game. And he also did coach the record-setting 2007 Patriots. And it'll be really interesting to see what sort of teams want to hire him and will interview him. I think teams like the Browns, like the Panthers, and obviously the Giants, but with the sort of past that the Patriots and the Giants have had, I really don't think that he's going to go to the Giants. But the Browns, anytime McDaniels has been on the market, the Browns have had their name in the hat. And I think McDaniels would be able to really be able to boost that offense in Cleveland and be able to make a lot of really interesting calls and really interesting plays that would be able to work with that wicked talented offense in Cleveland. And I think that it'll be really cool to see how he'll be able to bounce back after such an up and down few seasons that he had as the head coach of the Denver Broncos. So now getting to another top candidate in the head coaching market, in Urban Meyer. Now he is looked at as one of the most talented and recognized. So he's looked at as one of the most famous and talented head coaches in college football. He had a record of 187 and 32 during his college football career and was able to win 3 national championships. A lot of people around him have said that they have an inkling that he wants to coach again. And it'll be really interesting to see what teams will reach out to him and really want to push to have him be their head coach. And he has also left his past 2 coaching jobs because of headaches and severe health problems. And so it'll be really interesting to see if he still does want to coach and what teams he will accept the interview for. And there's been a lot of rumors about potentially the Cowboys wanting to hire him, but like I said before, Jerry Jones is the puppet master for that entire franchise, and Urban Meyer is just not going to deal with that. But I really think that the Cleveland Browns would be a team that would be a perfect fit for Urban Meyer because it's just been a carousel of all these different head coaches, all these different GMs. There's just no secure culture in Cleveland. There's just no real, definition of what that team is. And I really think that Urban Meyer is going to be able to go in there, really put a lot of discipline in there and be able to turn this Browns team around. And it came out in a report a few days ago that the Browns are pushing really strong to get Urban Meyer as their head coach. And in my opinion, I think he's going to be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns next year. So now talking about one of the last top candidates that are up for these different coaching vacancies, and Matt Rule. And he is the head coach of Baylor. And it was interesting to see how he was able to really turn that Baylor team around, especially in 2017 when they went 1-11 and he was able to turn them around to be 11-2. And this actually made Baylor the third team in college football history to start 7-0 after 2 years starting 0-7. And throughout his career, he's really been able to turn these franchises and teams around. And he actually turned down a head coaching position for the New York Jets last season when they would not allow him to pick his coaching staff. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. Like you're not going to be able to pick your friends around you or pick your entourage around you to really help you be able to make the right decisions for the franchise. And it just really made no sense why they really made that demand. But it also showed that he isn't really very interested in a head coaching position in the NFL at this moment. And that's when we saw that he turned down an interview for the Cleveland Browns just a few days ago. And a lot of teams and a few teams like the Panthers and the Giants are very interested in him as a head coach, and especially the Giants because he was the offensive line coach for them in 2012 when they won the Super Bowl against the Patriots. And he has really been able to bring these schools like Temple and Baylor up from the ground level up to just amazing and very productive teams, especially in Baylor when they had 45 scholarship players on the roster and they were 40 spots shy from the minimum. I'm sorry, they were 40 spots shy from the maximum amount of scholarships that they could have. And they only had one verbal commit in 2017. And he was able to turn that team all the way around and be able to bring that excitement back to that school and being able to really excite those recruits and persuade them to want to come to the school and play for him. And so I think he could do the same exact thing to an NFL clubhouse, to an NFL locker room, and being able to make everybody believe in the message that he is trying to speak and really believe in the culture that he's trying to build around that franchise. And I think that the Giants would be a really interesting team, especially since he was already a part of that franchise. And I think that he'd be able to really help Daniel Jones be able to develop with Saquon Barkley and be able to really bring that offense into a very exciting state. So those are just a few of the candidates that I want to talk about and some of the most exciting ones that were really interesting in my opinion. Obviously, there's a lot of other candidates that potentially could be interviewed and that could be hired by these few teams that are looking for these coaches, but I just want to highlight a few of my favorites. So go down and comment, who do you think the Giants, the Browns, the Panthers, and the Cowboys will all hire as their head coach for this upcoming season? So if you did like this video, please give me a big thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. Also, don't forget, go down and subscribe, and also follow my Instagram and also my Twitter. Thank you guys so much, as always, for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. See you next time.
Hold up, went into the hotel.